Terrakion's future form Iron Boulder is finally here, and out of all the future Sword of Justice Pokemon, this is the first one that's actually any good. I'm gonna be honest folks, the first time I saw Iron Boulder I assumed it wouldn't be that good. I think compared to the original Terrakion, a rock psychic typing doesn't seem great. Fighting typing is proven to be pretty good in this metagame with dark resistance and just being a good general offensive stab type. Psychic on the other hand isn't as great. It's kind of a huge weakness to be vulnerable to Ghost and Dark, which are both extremely common types, especially with King Gambit being one of the most prominent and powerful Pokemon in the format. And I have to be honest folks, I did have a bit of a bias against this Pokemon because I think it is very stupid. I'm sure we can all agree that Iron Boulder is one of the lamest Pokemon names perhaps in history. It's dangerously close to Iron Jugulus, but at least that's kind of funny. Iron Boulder is a travesty of a name. I'm not sure why the future Paradox forms continue to be so much lamer than the past ones. I mean, Raging Bolt and Gouging Fire are a bit goofy, but they're at least kind of creative. But unlike Iron Leaves, who was doomed to mediocrity in every regard, Iron Boulder is actually extremely good in competitive singles. Although Terrakion might actually seem better at a glance, Iron Boulder's biggest advantage is its much higher speed stat, and also the fact that it's able to use a booster energy. We've already seen Iron Valiant excel as a speedy booster energy late game cleaner. Guess what? Iron Boulder is even faster, and in fact, it can actually outrun Iron Valiant with a booster energy speed boost and KO it with Zen Headbutt. So Iron Boulder is kind of the new Iron Valiant. It may not be able to run mixed sets or special sets, but its physical sets are great. The other thing that makes Iron Boulder really excellent is its signature move, Mighty Cleave, which is a 95 power, 100% accurate rock type move. And I think this alone would be really good. Most rock types have to rely on Stone Edge as their main form of physical stab, which has an unfortunate 80 accuracy, making it really unreliable. And the other option is usually Rock Slide, which is more accurate but has significantly less power. But Mighty Cleave is 100% accurate and has a massive power of 95. That's really good. And on top of this, it has a great secondary effect as well. It bypasses protection, which means you can't use Protect against this. It'll go through Protect. I think this is going to end up being a lot more significant in VGC, where Protect is a much more important mechanic, but even in singles, Protect is quite common. The fact that an already really excellent move on its own merits also has this fantastic secondary effect is really something, folks. With all the advantages this Pokemon has over Terrakion, I'm actually glad that they made its typing a bit worse, because I think that being able to Sucker Punch this is a pretty good way to keep it in check, actually. That's at least a good way to revenge KO this. I think most sets at the moment are running Terra Fighting for the purpose of gaining dark resistance mostly, alongside extra damage on close combat. At the moment, Iron Boulder has a very strong case to be the best of the new Paradox forms introduced in DLC 2. It's a bit hard to say. I mean, Great Neck and Gouging Fire are both excellent in their own right, but Iron Boulder, with the immediate threat it poses and the ability to just outrun absolutely everything in the format pretty much, even Booster Energy Iron Valiant, really excellent. And in fact, when I was browsing the Smogon forums, I found this team, which managed to hit #1 on the ladder with an impressive rating of 2085, and you guessed it, Iron Boulder is present here. Iron Boulder has achieved #1 on the ladder. This team was built by the player Mimikyu Stardust, and this is the true definition of Hyper Offense. Every single thing on this team is a threat. This isn't Screen's Hyper Offense, this is not Hazard Stack with Goldango, this is just use a bunch of offensive Pokemon and boost up and defeat the enemy. The team does have a bit of defensive backbone with Hatterene, who is defensive invested, and King Gambit, who is quite naturally bulky and also HP invested, but even these two Pokemon are offensive sweeping win conditions themselves. And the game plan of this team, I'm sure, is very simple. Glimmora is going to be the lead most of the time, get your rocks on the field, spin against the enemy rocks, do some damage on the way out, then probably go in with threats like Volcarona and Roaring Moon, try to weaken their defenses by baiting in their main checks and weakening them, and once everything's weakened, in comes Iron Boulder with its one-time speed boost to outrun the entire world and finish everything off with its powerful stab moves, Swords Dance if necessary, close combat for the Dark and Steel types. It's like clockwork. Here's the team in action, folks, and this is actually the game that earned Mimikyu Stardust that coveted #1 spot. We're up against a hazard stacking balance with Samurott Hisui, Goldango. Not sure what the Deoxys is running. Could be anything. Let's take a look, folks. I'm sure we lead off with the Glimmora, of course. Make some hazards. I wonder what threat you go to. Oh, simply save the Glimmora. Go to King Gambit, actually. Try to stomach the Psyshock. And you go to the full defense Hatterene. That's a sensible switch in. That's going to force out Great Tusk pretty well. We're just feeling it out at this point. Taking some jabs. For a moment I thought that was Focus Blast. I thought the enemy was a professional gamer. It was a simple Make It Rain though. King Gambit has entered the field safely. And a pretty nice double switch into Volcarona, and now the ball starts rolling, potentially. Trying to sack Glamora there, perhaps thinking of a headlong rush or scouting for rock coverage if that's such a thing. I don't think Great Tusk usually runs rock coverage. Just gonna Bug Buzz. Surprisingly, Samurott actually lives the Bug Buzz. I mean, that's a disaster in the making. But in comes Roaring Moon to clean this up. This isn't looking like the cleanest thing in the world. But Roaring Moon can outrun Deoxys Speed after a Dragon Dance. Mimikyu Stardust is playing this very conservatively, actually, making defensive switches, not committing to anything before having more information, which is sensible. I would probably just be clicking buttons if I was in the driver's seat, but Mimikyu Stardust is a professional, making more astute gamer decisions. And that's a beautiful Mystical Fire catching the Goldengo on the way in. Not only coverage against it, but nerfing its special attack. Hatterene probably going to Draining Kiss for the extra little bit of heals, of course. That's optimal gaming. Finish off Goldengo, heal that slight bit more. And I'm thinking an Iron Boulder clean is looking good. And I believe Iron Boulder, after the speed boost, actually even outruns Deoxys Speed, which is crazy, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. Yep, well over 504 speed with that speed boost. In comes Rillaboom threatening Grassy Glide. That's another thing that checks Iron Boulder pretty well. But just outrunning Deoxys Speed is crazy. That's a proof of concept if I've ever seen one. Committing to Terra Grassy Glide. King Gambit looks primed to clean this up. It's even getting some chip heal. Thanks, Rillaboom. Thank you for the assistance. This is a wrap, folks. I don't think you've even committed to Terra yet, Mimikyu. You got the Terra primed for Great Tusk. Oh, the mind game. You didn't Terra because Great Tusk was playing around Terra flying with that Ice Spinner. And now you Sucker Punch. It's a double mind game. What's going on? And of course you get it correct once again. Not even terrestrializing. That's such a frightened opponent, trying to play around the Terra. I respect that Ice Spinner so much, but Mimikyu Stardust absolutely on top of the mind game. That goes to show, folks, that even a Hyper Offense team like this that seems so simple and straightforward on the surface can actually have a lot of complexity to it. In that game, you could see that Mimikyu Stardust played very carefully, not committing to any of the win conditions too early, not committing to terrestrialize to keep options flexible and enable those mind games in the end. And when you have a Hyper Offense team like this with a very limited defensive backbone, you got to think of every single Pokemon as a resource that you have to use at the right moment. Iron Boulder came in for one kill only. It only got a single KO, but that's all it needed to do. And getting rid of Deoxys Speed probably secured that victory. So very cool stuff. That being said, I think with this team, you can probably just get a lot of straightforward wins, especially at the low ladder. But once you're up against more aware opponents that aren't going to fall for the cheap win conditions and easy victories, things get more complex. I'll link this team in the Smogon thread down below in the description and the pinned comment. Thanks everybody for watching. Shout out to Mimikyu Stardust. Congratulations on your #1 peak. This is insane. Thank you for watching.
Oh, KO'd by one hit! It scattered light!
The money got different, cause of what I'm spending.